We all here? Are we missing? I will call to order the meeting of the Police Commission for March 15th. It's 4:27. And can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 22nd meeting?
I move approval of the minutes from the February 22nd meeting.
Any corrections or?
None of note.
Nothing from the chiefs? No, good. Okay. All right, then all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And minutes are approved. And public comment, is there anybody logged in to speak?
We have one person. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand electronically now. I do not see anyone that wishes to speak.
Okay, great. We'll move on to operations report, patrol staffing, selective enforcement report. Chief Voss.
Good afternoon, commissioners. For February 2021, there was 176 sworn personnel. Officer Crawford still on a leave of absence. These was with 5 patrolman vacancies. In the month of February, there was 161.75 sick days used, 78.25 workman's comp days. 4 officers still on extended workman's comp. The Detective Bureau for February 2021 opened up 27 cases. They did make a significant arrest. They arrested a Chaz McFadden, who was wanted for 7 counts of nighttime commercial burglary throughout southwestern Connecticut, but he committed 7 in Norwalk throughout the latter months of 2020. So that was a good closure on those cases. They have several ongoing background investigations for new MPD employees and officers, and 2 ongoing sexual assault investigations. Special services investigations, they opened up 25 cases. They made a prostitution arrest at the Red Carpet Inn, which originated from a social media post. And they're still investigating 2 non-fatal overdoses that did occur in February. SVU, Special Victims, opened up 34 cases. School resources officers still assisting Norwalk Public Schools with students non-compliance. And they are investigating other online cases that originated from remote learning. Traffic unit activity, they remained busy again. They did 197 stops, 18 citations. 3 misdemeanor arrests, 162 written warnings, and 14 verbal warnings. Total enforcement for the department in February was 337 infractions issued, 93 for traveling too fast, 72 for stop sign or other moving violations, control signal, and no license. So activity in citations remains robust in more than the latter part of 2020. And in patrol, they investigated 3,763 calls for service, and total criminal arrest was 144.
Any questions?
Yeah, Deputy Chief Walsh, was this increase in citations, traveling too fast and stop sign, was that due to any additional emphasis that we placed on these items?
In some areas, yes, through community policing, but we've seen a general uptick in activity among the platoons also. But we did address some areas based on resident complaints, but we have seen an uptick in general activity.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. Is that it? Yep. Okay. We will move on to February training report, administrative report. Deputy Chief Secca.
Hello. Fairly standard training this month. Some of the ESU team, their monthly team training, scuba team training, and then continuing with annual firearms training. The only additional training outside of that was some social media and officer discipline training that the chiefs took. And also civil liability for supervisors class that our training lieutenant took. Starting, February was a relatively slow month for training, but it'll be picking up with the review credit cycle. And I would mention that the de-escalation, the leads de-escalation training that we're bringing an outside instructor in to complete is moving forward for March.
Okay, great.
So that.
Commissioner, do you have any questions?
Deputy Chief Zeka, just a question. How many canines do we have now?
6.
Okay.
4 handlers, 6 dogs.
4 handlers and 6 dogs. And we still use, we still have the collaboration with other cities who don't have it, that they can use our officers and dogs.
Yes, pretty much with any resources. We have, agreements with surrounding towns. We always provide mutually to surrounding towns.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you again for that wonderful report you gave us last month on training. That was so helpful.
Oh, yeah, it
I know it
really
was a
was.
little long, but
No,
we
that was.
do a lot of training.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do a lot. I know a lot more now.
yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Okay, we will move on to personnel matters. First up is tuition reimbursement for Sergeant Ryan Everts.
Okay, I move, what do I move? I move approval for the application of tuition reimbursement for Ryan Everts.
Is there any comment from the chief or deputies on it?
It's a standard request. He has his paperwork in order, the payment as well as his A grade, and the course was pre-approved, so he's requesting half reimbursement.
Well, I must say that our officers, either the schools are real easy or they're real smart because we seldom see any grades lower than an A. So with honor, I move payment to Ryan Everett in the amount of $1,445 for his course in human diversity and social justice.
Great, thank you so much. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries.
Commissioner, can I ask if you would go off the agenda to do one course approval that we got after the packet was prepared? It's
Sure,
a
absolutely.
standard course approval, not a reimbursement.
Yeah, good. I think we need a motion to go off the agenda.
I move.
All in favor, we're approved. So go for it.
So this is a request by Detective Imperato. He's going to be attending, or is attending, Sacred Heart for his master's in criminal justice. And he put in a request for course approval for criminal law and procedure, crime causation and deviance, administration and management of the criminal justice system, research methods and statistical analysis, and victimology.
I move approval.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries also.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that forward. And next one is, I think let's see, drop request for Lieutenant Weisberger.
Yeah, if I could comment on this first.
Yeah, absolutely.
The request is not specifically in line with the collective bargaining agreement. The mayor is currently in discussions with the personnel director, and the mayor asked if we would table this item until next month.
Okay,
Or if
great.
you would table the item until next month.
Is this for both of those who are requesting drop or just
No.
for Art?
Just for Lieutenant Weisgerber.
Okay,
It's due to a timing issue with his years on, and so they want to verify something
Okay.
regarding it.
Okay. Do you want to
Well,
make a motion?
I move to table the approval of the drop plan for Lieutenant Weisgerber.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll take that up next month. Drop request for Lieutenant Praveen John.
And this one is a standard drop request, requesting to leave on March 31st, 2026. So he'd begin his drop April 1st of this year for 5 years, which is the standard drop plan.
Okay.
I move approval of the drop plan for Lieutenant John.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Okay, moving on to complimentary letters. Chief?
Yep, you have a few emails and letters in your packet. The first is from Norwalk Hospital EMS regarding Officers Ortiz, Ham, Silva, Gay, Mitchell, and Sergeant Sherry. This was regarding an EMS call. I believe it had to do with an emotionally disturbed person that they were able to de-escalate, and working with EMS transport the person without any further issues. The second is for Officer DeVito, a resident from Woodbury, had contacted. It's regarding a suicidal person call, and they complimented him on the way he handled the situation. The third was a generic email that I got to the department as a whole, just wishing us well. And let's see, the fourth was regarding Officer Alderando during a medical call. This came through Lieutenant Hume. And then finally, to Sergeant Galino for her work with Neighborhood Watch, conducting meetings with a group here, and some other work that she's done with some different groups. They were contacting me to just let us know what a great job she's doing with that work, which she does on the community outreach.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, I just think it's wonderful that citizens, residents take the time to send emails, letters to tell us what a good job officers are doing for them in their particular time of need. It just attests to what I see, even when we don't have officers of the month, that our officers are doing professionally and being courteous and relieving citizens of their particular issue all the time. And we don't often get feedback about that. But just let one incident that is negative, we get all kinds of expressions and emails and so forth. But I'm just so proud of the training, the professionalism, and Chief, I thank you for keeping that in order with our police department. Thank you, deputies, chiefs also.
Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. I too just want to say thank you again for bringing these to us every month. And it's amazing. We've never, since I've been on the commission, never had a month where we haven't had any letters at all. And I think this again just shows what a great job we're doing on the training and everything, and that our officers show up, especially with the mental health cases, that they show up in a professional manner, and not just that, but they're compassionate. And I think that that's so important, to have that in our community. So great job to all the officers and to you guys, and for all the training that's done and put forth. And just really, really happy to get these. I wish that there was a way, and I'm sure there is, we just have to brainstorm it to have these things get out there more. The good things that are done. It's great that we know what's going on, but there's so many people that don't know, like Commissioner Collier Clemens was saying, you get one incident and it's all overblown and everything, but here we are, like every month after month after month, we're receiving letters of what a great department we have and how wonderful our officers are. And it's just this handful of us that are hearing about it. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas, to think about going forward, a way to get some of this out there. It'd be nice to hear for another month. So thanks.
Well, I think whenever we're in a position in our, community, organizations, groups, friends, whatever, we could just, drop a nugget on
Absolutely.
how good, how good we are.
Yeah,
We're not supposed to blow our own horn because that's the job we're supposed to do.
right,
But even there are people, this is the job they're supposed to do. They don't do it and they don't do it well.
right.
And we do, and we do it well.
Right, right, exactly. And it's like one thing to just show up and do what you're supposed to do, but we have every month so many officers that are just going above and beyond. And but yeah, no, it's a great idea to just keep talking it up in amongst our circles and any other things that we could think of. So sounds good.
And Chief, if you will relay to the officers how proud we are of them every day for what they do and how they do it, I would appreciate it.
That'd be great.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then that moves us on to the presentation. Did the mayor want us to wait for him for next month for that, or should we go ahead? Or
He said he's fine if you want to go forward.
okay, sure.
He's good with that. He kind of left it up to you. He's familiar with it, so he's happy either way.
Okay. Take it away then, Chief. It's all yours. Mhm.
Mayor, could you allow me to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to share it.
Okay, it looks like everybody's seeing the first slide.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk briefly about accreditation, but specifically the Commission on Accreditation, which is our international accreditation, which we've had since '95. Most of the slide presentation you're seeing is from the Commission. Our program manager had something already created, so I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and forwarded this over to me. So CALEA was founded, the organization was founded in 1979. That was the establishment of the Commission on Accreditation for law enforcement agencies. And it was created as a voluntary program for public safety agencies to get accredited and maintain accreditation. And also, at the time, there was issues in society that they felt could be addressed with a more professional managed police department. So that's kind of where the idea of accreditation from CALEA came into about. And the reason being is if as you know, colleges and universities are accredited, or most are accredited or strive to be. If they're not, many times they're not, you can't receive funding for college loans and things if they're not accredited. And accreditation itself for colleges started in 1787 in New York. And what accreditation does and how it works for police agencies. So basically, the commission assures that the agencies conduct an assessment of the agencies and assure that they have specific policies in place that meet the standards that have been set by CALEA. And the agencies then have to prove that not only do they have those policies and procedures in place, but they actually follow them. So they have to include proofs of compliance, which are reviewed by the commission to make sure that we're doing what we say we do. So it's both a process and a status. So it's an ongoing process. It's not something that you achieve and that's the end of it. It's something that you achieve and then have to maintain and continue on. The standards themselves are set by the Commission on Accreditation. And as I said, back in 1979, they developed these standards due to a lack of confidence in law enforcement at the time and a desire to professionalize the entire profession. So the founding groups that make up CALEA is the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE, the National Sheriff's Association, and the Police Executive Research Forum. Those four groups, which all exist today, came together and created the Commission on Accreditation and still oversee the commission as it stands today. So the commission is made up of 21 commissioners They're appointed to 3-year terms. As the mayor mentioned, I was appointed a commissioner for January of last year. So I'm in my 2nd year of my 3-year term, and hopefully will be reappointed next year. You can be reappointed for a maximum of 3 terms. You have to be an active law enforcement member to get reappointed. So once an individual retires, they can finish out their term, but they can't get reappointed. That's not the same for some other members that are not law enforcement. Commissioners come from a broad range of public safety professionals. They come from colleges, universities, legislators from various areas, judges. Currently, we have a retired Supreme Court justice from South Carolina that's a commissioner. We have a legislator from Ohio, I believe, that just came on as a new commissioner. So the commissioners are spread across the nation from all different backgrounds, different sized police departments. The commission's a nonprofit organization. It's managed by an executive director, Craig Hartley, and their headquarters are in Gainesville, Virginia, although a majority of the work is done remotely. So many of the full-time staff for CALEA don't actually work at the headquarters. They work from home, and the headquarters is more or less a base of operation for CALEA now. They used to have a full office suite, but to save money and because it wasn't needed due to obviously virtual meetings and being able to work remotely, most staff now does work remotely. They also wanted the regional program managers to come and live in the area in which they work. So as an example, our regional program manager is Paul McMillan. He's the retired chief of the Metropolitan Boston Transit Authority. He's the liaison for all of the Northeast agencies for CALEA. He resides in Massachusetts, so he attends the Connecticut accreditation meetings. He attends the Rhode Island, Northern New England. So living in the area, he's able to really interact both virtually and also in person at various regional meetings. As I said, the background of the commissioners: municipal chiefs of police, of which I'm one of, college professors, communication directors, university police chiefs, state senators, city managers, state police superintendents, sheriffs, investigative agency directors, judges, and others in business-related fields. So it's a well-rounded group of individuals. Currently, the chair is Anthony Purcell. He's the chief of the University of Alabama, Birmingham Police Department. And the executive director, as I mentioned, is Craig Hartley. CALEA has 4 different programs now. The law enforcement program was the initial program which started this whole thing. It's now expanded where they have a communications component, a training academy component, and a campus security component. So as an example, the Connecticut Police Academy post is CALEA accredited as a training academy, the Connecticut Police Academy. In campus security, as an example, Yale University Security is currently undergoing a self-assessment to become CALEA accredited as a campus security. That's a non-sworn agency. They're not police, they are security. So it's non-sworn, so the standards are slightly different. Communications, obviously communications in many areas of the country, communication centers are countywide and handle many, many agencies, and many of those are accredited communication centers. There is one communication center in Connecticut that's accredited. That's the Madison Police Department's combined dispatch. They're accredited. So basically, there are a number of standards that have been developed by the commission. I think currently there's 484 standards. Depending on the size of the agency and the level of accreditation, you would have to comply with a certain percentage of those. Many of them are mandatory for all agencies, and then there are some that are optional depending on your size. As an example of one standard, a code of ethics, that standard requires a written directive that all personnel abide by a code of ethics adopted by the agency, and it mandates that training be conducted for all personnel at a minimum every 2 years. So as an example, we do have a code of ethics, as you know, and we train or retrain officers on that code at least every 2 years to be in compliance with this standard. And the commission will look to see that we're conducting that training, that we have proof that our officers have gone through that training when we get our assessment. One of the major components of CALEA is the Standards Review and Interpretation Committee. The Standards Review Interpretation Committee, SRIC, is comprised of members of the commission. I'm one of the members currently assigned to the SRIC. And what we do is we meet and we review to determine if we should add new standards, if we should revise standards. If we're asked by agencies to interpret standards, we will do that. And we also amend standards as we deem appropriate. As an example, in recent months, we added several standards related to the duty to intervene, related to banning chokeholds. Trying to think, and there's a couple other revisions that we made to standards. And prior to every conference, we meet. The conferences, we had been meeting 3 times a year. Now they're virtual because of COVID, but the conferences are 3 times a year, March, July, November. Our subcommittee will meet the month prior to that. And usually that meeting is online by a webinar and usually lasts 2.5 to 3.5 hours. And that's where we'll discuss various standards and then bring it back to the full commission for a vote. And we also send out our suggestions for revisions and new standards back out to the field, to the clients, to the agencies via the website. There's a forum where the agencies can provide input back to us, which we look at and decide how to best meet the needs of all. So people engage in accreditation for CALEA to do the right thing for the right reason. What we always say, and I know we talk about it with other agencies, it makes you do what you should be doing anyway as a professional agency, but it keeps you on track, basically. These standards keep your focus in the right place so that you don't get sidetracked and let things slide, so to speak. CALEA is a voluntary process, which I mentioned. It's an internal process, so we do our own self-assessment. We write our own directives, our policies. CALEA then make sure that you objectively verify and maintain the quality of the agency. Periodic evaluations. It's conducted by an independent group that CALEA established. And the way that works currently is CALEA has hired a number of compliance service managers, CSMs they're called. These are mainly former accreditation managers and former police executives who remotely review the files, the policies and procedures, and the proofs of compliance of agencies on an annual basis. They'll review approximately 25% of those standards every year over a 4-year period. Then at the end of the 4 years, an on-site assessment takes place where a team of 2 assessors, I used to be an assessor prior to being made a commissioner, and they'll fly you out to the agency. You'll be there for 3 to 4 days. You'll tour the agency. You'll do ride-alongs. You'll review standards. You'll interview members of the agency, members of the public. There's a public hearing. You also take comments by phone. And at the end of that 4-day process, the team leader writes a comprehensive report, which then gets sent to the commission, and then the commission decides whether the agency should be accredited or reaccredited. So initially, when we first started our accreditation, which was back in 1993 or 4, that's when we actually signed a contract to start the accreditation self-assessment. In 1994, I was brought on with former Deputy Chief Mark Palmer, and I assisted him in revising all our directives. I was a detective at that time. We rewrote all our memos, all our policies into a written directive format, which we still use today. And those directives were all written based upon the CALEA standards, so we would come into compliance. Those standards give you a framework of operating the agency. What they also do is provide us with guidance on certain statistical reports that we have to prepare, annual analysis of use of force, pursuits. In fact, we're in the process right now of just completing for 2020 the various reports that need to be done for accreditation. But what those reports do is make us take a real hard look at ourselves, basically. And we track a lot of data now that we never tracked back prior to accreditation. And what that has done is allowed us to be more accountable, basically, to the community. A lot of the things that we heard this past summer because of some national events that took place, we've been doing here in Norwalk because of accreditation. We've always tracked our use of force. We've always been doing an analysis of the types of force and why we're using it and on who, and making sure that every use of force is reviewed by not only the shift commander, but also by the deputy chiefs and myself. So the CALEA and the accreditation standards have really set a framework which puts us above and beyond what we would actually, need to do, so to speak. When some state laws were changed in the last 2 to 4 years regarding a variety of things, regarding police use of force, regarding discipline, regarding other areas, we changed very little here in Norwalk because accreditation is always revising standards to keep it on the forefront. So a lot of those things we were doing already as a matter of our business practices. So it was nothing new to us to then report it to the state or report it to someone else. We were already gathering that information. As I said, it puts a management framework in place. It kind of keeps me on track and the deputies as to what we should be doing. As you know, a lot of times, you don't see the forest through the trees. Sometimes you get focused on certain issues that are going on, and many times things get missed. Well, with CALEA and the standards, they can't get missed, because if they get missed, we don't get reaccredited. So my accreditation manager assures that we're always keeping up to speed on every one of those standards and making sure we're doing what we say we're doing and doing it the right way. Currently, everything is done now through Power DMS, which is a data management system. So all our policies are scanned and uploaded to Power DMS. All our proofs of compliance are scanned and uploaded to Power DMS, along with videos, photos that will prove what we're doing. And then the compliance service managers will log in remotely, look through each of those standards, see our policy, look at our proofs of compliance for each year, and make sure that we're on track and doing what we're doing. As I mentioned, it's not a process that ends. It's a perpetual process. Once you get reaccredited, immediately you begin the process for another reaccreditation period. So we're always in a continuous compliance phase. We always have 4 years of proofs on file. It'll just 1 year gets dropped off and a new year gets put in, and so on, and it just keeps going. Every year, the accreditation manager has to file a status report through an online system, Stimmers. And that report covers any major changes in the agency, any personnel changes that affect accreditation, any major issues that may affect your accreditation process, or whether your accreditation should be reviewed because of something that may have occurred, such as a major lawsuit, a major incident in the community or whatever. That's all reported through Simmers to the commission. And then obviously the reaccreditation is done after an audit of all our standards of compliance and that on-site assessment. This is just a cycle. Year 1, you begin the process, update your agency information. Every year, we also update our statistical tables into that Simmers report on the number of personnel, the gender and diversity breakup of the department, of our community, our pursuits, our use of force, citations. All that data is statistics is all tracked and sent to through the online report to the commission. As I said, there are 3 conferences per year. We have not had them in person now because of COVID. Hopefully the November conference will go forward. We're currently, next week is the March conference, which was going to be in Winston-Salem, and now it's remote. That conference begins on Wednesday and goes till Friday. And Thursday and Friday is the business meetings and the review of agencies. So as an example, Thursday morning, we have meetings. We'll vote on any new standard changes as a commission, accept the various subcommittees reports. And then at 1 o'clock, we then start agency evaluations and the actual hearings. And we have, I believe, 104 agencies that are being reviewed this conference. I'm on Committee D, which handles the Ohio, Illinois area. They don't put you on a committee in an area where you live or work, so that you have very little chance of knowing any of the people, and there's no biases there where your friends, you're evaluating your friends, so to speak. So I have mostly Ohio, Illinois, A lot of Ohio agencies actually are accredited, so we do a lot of Ohio agencies. And we'll do that 1 to 4 on Thursday, and then 9 to 12 on Friday, and then 1 to 4 Friday afternoon. And we'll get through, I think, there's about 25 agencies per subcommittee. As I said, our initial accreditation was in 1995, and we've been getting reaccredited ever since. Initially, it was a 3-year cycle. It went to a 5-year cycle. Now it's a 4-year cycle with a whole new system in place. Our upcoming onsite is actually this year. So we have an onsite assessment scheduled for November 8th to the 11th. And I assume if things continue, that will not be virtual. That will be an onsite assessment. So we'll get 2 assessors who will come from somewhere in the country that'll come to Norwalk for, I said, 3 to 4 days. They'll interview me. They'll interview members of the department, do ride-alongs, members of the public, probably the 2 commissioners. We always give them your information and try to set up a time, either by phone or in person, again, depending on what happens in November. And community members, faith-based members, try to get a good overview of the entire city and the department, so they go back with a good overview of what the Norwalk Police Department is doing, and to assure them when they leave that we deserve to be reaccredited. We are also state accredited, which is a similar system. It's not as robust, to be honest, but there is a state accreditation program, and we've been state accredited since that started as well. And it's pretty easy to be state accredited once you're CALEA accredited, because CALEA is a much higher level. So once you're CALEA, there's only a few things you need to do to become state accredited as well. Currently, there are 17, I believe, Connecticut agencies that are CALEA accredited. We're the largest municipal agency. The Connecticut State Police is the largest agency. We're the largest municipal. And around our area, the New Canaan Police Department and the Darien Police Departments are also CALEA accredited. Most of the other agencies in Fairfield County are not. Most of the other agencies are upstate in the center of the state that are CALEA accredited. And I believe there are about 45 agencies in the state that are state accredited. So the majority of agencies in the state are not accredited at any level. If you saw in the news, there was a bill that was presented to require CALEA accreditation for all state police departments by 2025, I believe. There is an amendment to that bill that is being sent up currently to change that to state accreditation for all agencies by 2025, as opposed to CALEA. Because as I said, CALEA is really designed as a voluntary program for the best of the best. If your heart is not in it, to be honest, you're not going to get out of it what you should. You only get out what you put in. If you force someone to be CALEA accredited, they may meet the minimum standard, but are they going to maintain it? I don't think so, to be honest with you. So it's always been a voluntary program, and it should remain voluntary. And I'm hoping that change in the state law will remove the CALEA and leave it as Connecticut, of some level of Connecticut accreditation. And I think that's just about it. Questions on that? And I went quick, but.
Oh, that was great, Chief. Thanks so much. The question I had, you just answered, which was how many other agencies, departments and everything in the state are accredited. So that's great that we're one of just not many at all out of 169 municipalities to only have 17. But like you said, the best of the best. So, but I think that this presentation, just like the training one we had last month, was so helpful. I'm familiar with accreditation from just other nonprofits that I sat on and everything, like Keystone House. They have a pretty strict accreditation process that they go through. And I remember, watching the staff gear up for that and everything. So it was interesting to see on the law enforcement side what this looks like and what the process is like. And very comprehensive, very thorough. And I would imagine that you also find it a helpful tool for networking and finding best practices amongst other departments and such across, like around the country and everything.
That was, actually being an assessor, that was one of the great benefits, is visiting other agencies that were either seeking accreditation or seeking reaccreditation. Yeah. I met obviously many other police chiefs or state police commanders or whomever, and generally always brought back something from the other agency that I saw that they were doing either differently, maybe found a way to do it better, something that we hadn't even thought of. So it really forces you to stay on best practices. And yeah, the networking, one of the things I love about being a commissioner is in our meetings, we have the colonel of, state police colonel from Colorado is one of the new commissioners. So he brings a different perspective. There's a couple sheriffs that are on the commission. There's the Homeland Security Director for Pennsylvania that I believe
Marcus Brown.
Marcus Brown is one of our
My
commissioners.
teacher at Penn State. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
He's-
funny. Oh,
yeah, he's-
Homeland Security. Yeah.
He's one of the commissioners.
Oh,
And
nice.
he's actually, I believe he's the vice chair right now.
Huh.
But yeah, so he's also one of the commissioners. So he brings a different perspective as well. So yeah, it's a really an interesting group to be a part of. I'm honored to actually be a part of it. It's something I always thought about. One day I used to see the commissioners at the hearings, and I used to say, wow, look at that. It's a commissioner in the elevator, and he's talking to me. This is when I was a sergeant and a lieutenant. And now I look at it and say, what was I thinking? He's just a person. I'm a commissioner now. So it's so funny how you look at things differently, as time changes. But yeah, it's a really good group of people to work with from all over the country, and people that are really interested in improving law enforcement and trying to do the right thing, for the right reason. And sometimes the decisions and the standards that we make, a lot of times people aren't really happy with because it requires more work or whatever. But you do it because you want to make the profession as best as it can be, and that's what it does. I mean, I've always been a proponent ever since I got involved in 1994. I was a member of our accreditation network in Connecticut since 94. I was the president of our PAC for I don't know how many years. And I gave that up when I became a commissioner because they said it was might be a little bit of a conflict to be the president of the Connecticut accreditation group and also a commissioner at the same time. So right now, Joe Race, who's the captain in Madison, is the president. Actually, Sue is the secretary of the accreditation group here in Connecticut. I roped her into that many years back. And once you are there, it's tough to get somebody to replace you. As you know.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
This was an excellent presentation, Chief. I tell you, if I had any questions about CALEA, you have answered them all and beyond. And I'm so happy that we are a part of it, because if you are just operating in a box and you don't have any exposure to anything else or anybody else, you don't know what parts you're missing, what your blind side is, or how you can do things better. And I love to be affiliated with an organization who's always seeking to do the best and better that they can do. So thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I think that is our last item on the agenda.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you so much. All in favor? Aye. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kelly.
Good night.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.